YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with some more NFL free agency predictions. This is video number 2. We have another video up with a bunch of free agents and some predictions. If you haven't seen that one, check it out after this one. Some big-time free agents in there doing the same thing in this video. We'll make our predictions. Some things to keep in mind. I'm not going to get every single one of these right. There's going to be some unpredictable signings in free agency. Based on the comments of the last video, I do think there's fans that kind of insist that they're getting these certain free agents. They expect to kind of get everyone for some reason. It's unpredictable, you know. You're not going to get everybody you want here. So just making predictions, trying to figure out the landing spots for these free agents. We'll have you covered as it all goes down live on our Twitter with news, breaking news, rumors, predictions, thoughts, more, and then we'll grade every free agency signing pretty much as they happen here on the channel. So join us, like, subscribe, turn notifications on, follow our Twitter, very important. Link down below for that. Link down below for that recent free agency video. It's the same idea as this one, just different free agents. Here's our Twitter. It's a lot of talking about the offseason free agency, Deshaun Watson news coming out rapid fire. So there's a lot to get to. We're talking about it as it happens on Twitter. So let's go on into these free agents. Christian Kirk, who's supposed to be a hot name for free agency, might get more money than we think. So teams looking for kind of that slot receiver that can get kind of some deep production, downfield production. Could go back to the Cardinals. That's definitely possible. I really feel like the Colts will have some interest, a very good pairing with Michael Pittman. They just don't have that quarterback yet, so that's kind of the problem where their focus may be. Jacksonville, New England, Philadelphia, Kansas City, and Atlanta. These are teams kind of looking for this style of player, in my opinion. I went with Jacksonville. I think it'd be pretty important to get a slot receiver that can get some separation, has some quickness, has some speed for Trevor Lawrence. The Jaguars have a good amount of cap space. From what I've heard, it sounds like Kirk's going to get more than expected. So a team that has a lot of money, probably more likely to do that as well. So my prediction for Christian Kirk will be the Jacksonville Jaguars, but could go back to the Cardinals. I really like the Colts as well. I think the Colts a possibility there for Christian Kirk. We will see. DJ Chark, now an outside receiver, still has some upside, maybe some injury concern as well, though. And you see the teams that will be in the market for that outside receiver. So I threw those teams in there. Yeah, really looking at, you could go back to the Jags, but I'm really looking at the Dolphins. I like a lot of these teams. The Bears, I think the Raiders might go for a bigger outside receiver, maybe a guy like Allen Robinson. If they miss out on Allen Robinson, DJ Chark, definitely a possibility. New England, I really liked for DJ Chark as well. I went with Miami, though. Miami definitely in the market for an outside receiver, a lot of cap space. I think they'll like that he's still young, has upside, could pair with Jalen Waddle, Tua Tagovailoa. And they missed out on Amari Cooper, and they were definitely involved in trying to get Amari Cooper. So they're looking for an outside receiver here. Maybe they turn their attention to a guy like Allen Robinson first, but I'm predicting that Chark ends up with the Dolphins here in free agency. Another under-the-radar wide receiver, Marquez ValdesScanning, who has obviously that vertical threat, that deep speed, was pretty big for the Packers. See, with and without him, they're just so much better with him. So some of the same teams that are looking for that outside receiver with some speed can open things up downfield. I went with the Bears on this one. The Bears will be in the market for all these types of receivers here, the bigger name guys as well. I think they'll like the fit there, pairing him with Mooney, kind of creating that speed. But with this one, you have more length from Scantling, obviously. And then they did bring in Luke Getsy as their offensive coordinator, who came from Green Bay too. So I do think that helps. So I'm going to predict the Bears for Marquez ValdesScanning here, who's supposed to have a bigger market than most think there. Devonta Campbell, tough one to predict. I was leaning with the Chargers for most this offseason, but kind of last second switcheroo here. I kind of was feeling the Patriots supposed to be in. They're supposed to be in on receivers and linebackers, and linebacker is a massive need. They also have free agents at that position as well. So a guy like Devonta Campbell, I think, would fit, and they would like him off his breakout year, and they'd be willing to give him a decent payday. So I'm going to go with the Patriots. I was really liking the Chargers for a bit. The Packers, I hear, really want him back because, their defense took a massive step up when they added Devonta Campbell. So if they lose him and cut some of the other guys they're rumored to be cutting, that defense take a pretty brutal hit there. So I heard the Raiders and Eagles could be involved. Yeah, I was surprised the Raiders cut Corey Littleton. They did save a little bit, but I think he fits the new scheme. So be interesting to see if they're really in on a guy like this. But Eagles, I don't really love the fit. They could use a linebacker. I've heard that they could be in on Campbell, so we'll see. I mainly like New England and the Chargers. Patriots and the Chargers here for Devonta Campbell. At the moment, currently feeling the Patriots. Bobby Wagner is now a free agent, obviously. He wasn't to start this whole offseason, but this is a tough prediction. There's a load of teams rumored to be interested already. He's one of the best middle linebackers in football, so there's a load of teams that could grab him. This is one I can change my mind the second I'm done talking about him right now. So we'll keep you updated on Twitter, my thoughts, and where he could go. At the moment, I'm feeling the Steelers. The team that makes the most sense to me, and people will say the Cowboys, actually, which is why we put the Cowboys, or they should be listed on there, actually, but there's just too many teams to list. But the Cowboys inquired about Bobby Wagner, but it didn't really go anywhere after that because they realized, he's going to want money still. We don't have a lot of money, but they are clearing space. I don't really get what they're doing, though. They're kind of making their offense worse to make it better on defense with Bobby. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. The reason they got stopped in the playoffs was because their offense wasn't consistent in that game enough. So, I think Bobby Wagner's going to want the payday. I really do. It seemed like the Steelers are looking to get better at the inside linebacker position. It didn't really work out with who they had last year, so they have some cap space now in the future. I think Mike Tomlin would like Bobby Wagner, but a team that makes the most sense to me would be the Commanders. I think Ron Rivera kind of might be looking for this guy, or they insist on Jamin Davis because they drafted him in the first round last year. We'll see. They spent a good amount of cap space, obviously, already on Carson Wentz. So if Wagner wants the payday, that limits the Commanders as well. So it's really tricky. We'll see if the Cowboys, the fit with Dan Quinn, see if they clear the money and go for this. It would confuse me a little bit, though, if that's what they cleared all this money for and that's their offseason. It wouldn't be they get a good player. It wouldn't be the greatest thing. So at the moment, feeling the Steelers, this is one, again, so many teams involved that it's very tough to predict. I can change my mind at any second on this one. Next up, Akeem Hicks. I'm predicting the Chargers. They were trying to trade for him, I believe, last year around this time. We know he fits Brandon Staley's scheme. They traded for Khalil Mack from the Bears. They can grab another Bear here in Akeem Hicks. They definitely need a defensive tackle. He'd be a good fit in their 3-4. So I'm really feeling the Chargers in this one. See some other teams that could be in the market for a guy like Hicks as well listed there, but. Yeah, I was really. I'm not saying I'm guaranteeing and end up with the Chargers, but I'm really feeling that one. I really didn't hesitate with my prediction on Akeem Hicks here. So we'll see. Hassan Reddick, another tricky one because it looks like he's asking for a lot of money. I don't know if he gets that money. He's so scheme specific. A team that probably wants to blitz a bit. They don't have to blitz a whole lot, but they probably have to blitz a bit. Reddick actually, even though he's an edge rusher, is involved in that blitz. They bring him inside, almost stunting him there. So he actually, as an edge rusher, even racks up quite a number of blitzes there. So I really like the Chiefs for him. I think the Chiefs could be in on a guy like Randy Gregory, possibly, or Reddick instead. If Zadarius Smith is released, then maybe they're in on him as well. Like the Falcons for him, like all these teams for him. So. Maybe if the Broncos miss out on Von Miller or Chandler Jones. Went with the Ravens, though. The Ravens looking to get a pass rusher that is pretty productive. They're probably slightly switching their scheme a little bit. Why I say slightly is because, they moved on from Martindale. They probably want to run less man coverage. They probably want to blitz their inside linebackers less. But they do have the personnel for that, so it's not like they can completely go away from it. So there still will be some blitzing why Reddick fits, but having Reddick kind of do the blitzing, definitely helps as well instead of, their inside linebackers. So I went with the Ravens here. Don't think he gets paid what he wants, but he'll probably still get a pretty decent payday. But remember, he sat around and was had for cheaper than expected last year. It is because he's pretty scheme specific, so maybe not a lot of teams will be in on him and his value will drop. So we'll see what happens with Reddick. Next up, Uchenna Nwosu, another pass rusher that's kind of unique. Could drop in coverage a bit, really good at getting his hands on the ball. So a number of teams kind of looking for that style of pass rusher. Well, with the Colts, they bring in Gus Bradley, who's actually coached Nwosu in the past, but Gus Bradley's scheme, he typically wants one of the pass rushers to be, kind of be more of that hybrid type guy. So adding Nwosu in his defense opposite of Kwity Paye, those would likely be the starters. That makes sense to me. The Jets typically have a player like that on one side in terms of one of their pass rushers too. So the Jets could be in a market for a guy like that. Some other teams looking for pass rush help. Nwosu was like my favorite sleeper free agent, but now he's starting to pick up steam. So he might get a good payday. So it might not be a sleeper anymore. We will see. But I am predicting the Colts there for Nwosu. Marcus Maye, I kind of been hinting that I was going with the Eagles for Marcus Maye for some time. I really like the fit there in Jonathan Gannon's defense. They definitely need safety help as well. Marcus Maye could be used as a free or strong safety. You can even man him up, kind of in the with somebody in the slot, a tight end, a very good receiver in the slot as well if you need to. Really like those first few teams mainly, and really like the Eagles and the Texans. Might even be surprised if he ends up in somewhere other than that. That might be a little bold of me to say, but I've been kind of feeling the Eagles for some time if you've been watching the videos. So I really like the Marcus Maye for the Philadelphia Eagles here. Upgrade their secondary group there. But we'll see. Yeah, kind of an under-the-radar guy because we didn't see much of him last year at all, but had a really good year 2 years ago. And then next up, we got Dante Jackson, the corner from the Panthers. Had him going to the Jets. The last video I made, I predicted some of the star corners where they would go. I originally, if you remember me talking in that video, I originally was predicting Carlton Davis to go to the Jets. I think the Jets will be in on him and J.C. Jackson. I've changed my mind a little bit. Jets' focus could be on offensive line, maybe adding a tight end and looking at an outside receiver. So maybe they still get a good corner, but maybe one of the ones that don't cost as much. But they very well could end up with J.C. Jackson or Carlton Davis, and then they wouldn't get Dante Jackson. But maybe one that's slightly cheaper here that also I think is a great fit. I just really like the fit. This past year, Dante Jackson got familiar with man coverage, a lot of reps in man coverage. The year before, more of cover 3. And, knowing Robert Saleh and his defense, in the past, he's mainly been a cover 3 guy. Last year, more of a man coverage guy, kind of angling towards, want to mix those two in a little bit. So I think that makes all the sense in the world with a guy like Dante Jackson. I know who's he's a solid corner, but a pretty big step under if we're talking a guy like J.C. Jackson, yes. But other teams that could use a guy like that, see them listed below right there. I really like the fit of the Jets. The Panthers are tricky, though, because they had all these corners, but they're just going to let them all walk, too, and they're so focused on Deshaun Watson. Just very tricky. And then some other predictions that I had. This list is kind of random. I chose some. I'm not going to pull out free agents that I just really don't have a prediction for. So this is a pretty random list of players. But Gronkowski picking up steam with him to the Titans. I also considered back to the Bucks, the Bills, and the Bengals. Definitely a possibility. But feeling the Titans at the moment. Zach Ertz, I think will either be Cardinals, Jaguars, or Colts. I'm feeling the Jaguars. Doug Peterson there. They need a tight end pretty bad. They're going to value it a lot more. They might be able to pay him more than the Cardinals, even though the Cardinals really liked him last year. The Cardinals bring back Max Williams, so that's kind of the big situation there. The Falcons will be in on some of the bigger pass rushers. I have them missing out on those guys, as you can see. I have some other teams that can just get wild with the spending. Jason Pierre-Paul is a free agent for the Buccaneers. I think the Falcons would be able to grab him if they missed out on the big-time guys. Bradley Bozeman, the Ravens center, I think the Bengals will like him a bit, and they'll do some big spending at the guard position, maybe the right tackle position, and keeping some of their own guys back as well. So Bozeman would make sense. Austin Corbett, the Rams guard, I think he follows some Rams coaching staff there and ends up with the Vikings. The Vikings do have some work to do to clear some space. A couple more Colts predictions. Casey Hayward, I talked about this one in the past. Specifically fits a cover 3 scheme. There's not too many cover 3 schemes left. That teams that kind of just stick firmly to cover 3, but Gus Bradley does that, and Hayward's been playing for Gus Bradley for a reason, so I'm predicting that. I think the Colts, I still think the Colts could be in on a guy like Kirk Cousins, but too much risk, and do the Vikings want to trade him? Another option for the Colts is kind of getting a bridge quarterback and then drafting somebody, because somebody should fall in the second round. So that bridge quarterback could be Marcus Mariota. Javarius Ward's supposed to have a little bit better of a market than people expect. A decent corner, experience in man, cover 2, and that Chiefs scheme. The 49ers don't have many needs, but they're looking for another corner. I think Ward really fits them. I think they can get the most out of him as well. So I think Ward to the 49ers. The Mitchell Trubisky, who his name started to catch some fire, maybe a little bit too hyped, but I do think the Giants would be interested in with Brian Daboll there, and they need some competition for Daniel Jones. I still think Daniel Jones would be the starter, but that'd be some pretty solid competition there for them. So that's what I'm predicting. So we went over a lot of free agents between the two videos. Again, if you're just listening now, there's another video with, I'd say, better free agents than that one, but so check that out if you haven't. But there's still loads more of free agents. I don't have a prediction for everyone. It's always very unpredictable. That's why we love it. So if I don't have your team getting someone, it doesn't mean they're not getting anyone. For some reason, people always comment that. That's not what that means. Yeah, that wraps it up for this one. Again, if you haven't seen the other video, check it out. I'll put a link, pin it right in the comment section along with some other important links there. Check out our Twitter, live updates, breaking news, thoughts, everything on our Twitter. You're missing out if you're not following it. Link down below for that. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. We will grade every free agency signing pretty much as they happen here. And really, it all starts tomorrow. Legal tampering period on Monday the 14th. So join us for all the great content. We much appreciate it. It's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.